would just make a brief comment, if I may. So thank you very much for this beautiful and very comprehensive presentation. I would like to echo your comment that it's not just size, but I would underline that size is really the starting point of everything that follows in terms of the reorganization, and some of that I hope to present later on. And size, the scaling that you presented, that it's a gradual change in the size of the volume, is indeed something that is relatively easily achieved by biological mechanisms that can be traced and that can be explored. And so there are tiny twitches or tiny switches modifications of, you presented the prolonged developmental period. You referred particularly to the postnatal period, but there's also an elongated prenatal period. Yes. And that subtle elongation of developmental periods before and after birth results in the change of the volume, very easily achieved, and then subsequent changes in the number of organizational features of the brain, which you alluded to in the functional realm. So I would underline your comment very much that the subtle changes in size and the gradual changes in size are really the basis for everything that we see in terms of reorganization and ultimately in the gain of function of the modern human species.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a brief comment to this, because to me it was unclear what hen and egg is. Was there a genetic mutation that caused larger brains, as was suggested by Klaus, which then allowed them to hunt together and have better food? Or was the need for better food the selective pressure for a bigger brain? As a biologist, we would prefer the first hypothesis, that there are some endogenous processes leading to larger brains, more cognitive abilities, better food, and then the chain starts.
Yeah, I think that when we look back on early hominids, we would look at the population like for any other features, that in terms of however we define intelligence or cleverness or whatever, it's a bell curve. So there are individuals who are mostly in the middle. There are some who are not very adaptable or very bright, and then there are always some that are somewhat brighter. And I think that the individuals who were able to be more successful with increasing their diet by a high energy diet and bringing just that much more food back to share with their offspring were the ones that guaranteed the survivorship of those genes. And there would have been through time, you know, it's not necessarily the selection of the fittest. It's really the elimination of the unfit. And I think what we're seeing here is that those who were not able to do that were taken out of the populations. And by almost a passive process, we call it natural selection, those slightly brighter individuals were the ones who left the most offspring, who left the most, enriched the gene pool of those offspring. So that obviously, yes, there was a behavioral change first, but you had to have some individuals who started that feedback process. And so I think that when you can increase your survivorship of your genes over a long period of time, there is this selection for intelligence.
Thank you. Any further? Yes.
Well, I think that the Pontifical Academy of Science should give you a prize for clarity. It was extremely clear. I was wondering to what extent plotting the pattern that you have shown against the body size would, let's say, increase the pattern or reduce it? Because of course, the body size is also an important variable in brain size.
Yeah, there is a relationship between body size and brain size. But when you take that into consideration and you see a tripling in brain size, you know that there has to be very strong selection that is not just simply due to body size. And I think that you can eliminate the effects of body size by looking at some of the brain reorganization in a gross perspective, but also the high level of increase, the significant level of increase in brain size. But it's true. And what is interesting about Flores is that the brains there are I think probably responding somewhat to body size because of island dwarfism. Those creatures were loosey sized. They were only about 3.5 feet tall. They had very small cranial capacities, but the brain itself preserved those very important parts, particularly in the neocortex. So, but one does have to be very careful to take into consideration body size and brain size. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think I have to stop the discussion now. Please keep your questions for the general discussion. We are short of time.